back to Art 4. I hope you've been having a lovely time and doing lots of creative activities while you've been away from school. Today's tutorial is a fantastical tutorial. We are going to create, or we're going to have a go at creating this absolutely magical fire dragon. And as you can see, he is pretty impressive, and he is a fire-breathing dragon, I think. Now, you can choose to do a different kind of dragon. You could do a sea dragon or a rainbow dragon or a pink or a purple dragon. It can be totally up to you. This is a lovely imaginative project because obviously dragons aren't real, so you can do whatever you like, really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you step by step how to create this kind of really complex dragon, and it's a really nice tutorial. It's quite challenging, but I think that you've all been following so beautifully along with me that I think you could probably have a really good go at this. And I've done this before a long time ago with a year 4 class, so that kind of gives you a good idea of the kind of dragons that you can create, because they did really well. Now, the only thing that I might say is you might need a Sharpie, and I didn't mention that in my equipment list because I decided to add a beautiful black background to my dragon at the end because I just felt it needed a little bit of more drama, and the black background really creates that, and it makes it look almost like he's in the cave or he's against a night sky. Now, you don't have to do that at all. You can decide that you're going to have a magical world background, you know, volcanoes and things like that in the background. It could be that your dragon's, you know, in a seascape because you've chosen to do a sea dragon, or it might be in a sky. It's totally up to you. That's why this project is so nice, and I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of your finished pieces. I would love to see them, as I keep saying, because they cheer me up while we're all off school and we're not seeing each other, and I am enjoying seeing all your fantastic art projects. So the kind of things that you're going to need pencils and pencil crayons, obviously, and you can see that there's a lot of blending and a lot of shading, but actually, because you don't have to be too neat like we've talked about before with shading, then you can go through this quite quickly, which is good. Now, you will need a rubber and a nice sharp pencil, and I would suggest you having, you know, a few goes. You're not necessarily going to get this one straight off the bat. Okay, so just bear that in mind. I edited a lot through the video, so you'll see me doing that, which will give you an idea of, you know, the fact that we all have to edit our work before we get to something as kind of impressive as this looks once you get to that end stage. Okay, so I hope you all have a fantastic time following along with this dragon tutorial, and let's get started. Okay, so here are the things that you're going to need to complete this fantastic dragon head tutorial. And again, we're going to be using pencil crayons because we're going to be shading, as you'll have seen already in the drawing that I did at the start. We're going to use a nice sharp pencil. I have got a black biro here, but a fine liner would do. Something that's thin, not a Sharpie or a felt tip, and that's to help you with your outlining. You're going to need a rubber because we're going to need to do a little bit of rubbing out here and there, because obviously the drawing is quite complicated and we'll need to do some sketching and then editing. A pencil sharpener just in case, because obviously we're going to be colouring quite a lot, and then a selection of pencil crayons would be really useful. I'm probably going to do these 3 colours, so I'm going to do like a fiery dragon, but if you wanted to do a sea dragon, you could use these kind of colours instead. If you want to do a rainbow dragon, you can do that as well if you would like. So it's totally up to you. So we don't need too many things today. Again, I've just got my printer paper, and I've got a little bit underneath just to stop it from slipping around, so you might want to do the same. Okay, so I'll just move these out of the way now that you've seen what we need. Okay, so I'll just move those across like so. I'll move my rubber, my pencil sharpener and my pencil. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start creating the outline of the dragon's head, and this section needs to be done really quite lightly. Okay, so I'm going to do it actually how I would do it on this piece of paper, and then I've got a drawing where I've pressed a little bit harder so you can actually see the shape if you can't quite see it on the video, but hopefully you'll be able to. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to start kind of in the middle of your paper, because we want enough room for the the horns to come up here and the neck to come down this side. So we're kind of going to be working in this middle section. And we want to leave enough room so that we can fit in all the detail, because obviously it's quite detailed. So we need to leave enough room for that. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to draw, and lightly, like I said, so you're going to start with a kind of a little straight line, not too long, and you can rub this out, so don't worry. Okay, and then you're going to slant it down just a little so it comes to a point, and then it's going to go down like this. Okay, and then it's going to round off, and it's probably easier for you to kind of see when I'm drawing, and then it's going to go up a little at an angle, just taking care. Okay, and then you're going to come back up almost straight, and then you're going to join this line here together. Okay, so that's the kind of shape you're wanting to create, and it looks weird at the moment, okay, because it's not a shape that you'll be necessarily good at drawing straight off. So if you need to have a couple of goes at this to get it to look like mine, then please feel free to do so, because this is going to form the basis of everything that we're going to do next. Okay, so have a kind of a little look. We've got it's almost straight, it slants down to this little point here, and then it comes down towards the nose, and we're going to add a little bit extra on the end there, and it rounds at this point, and then straight again, because that's going to be its jawline, and we're going to need that straight line to help us with the kind of the prongs that are going to come off, and then up to join the head at the top. And all of this is not going to be seen, okay, it's just to help us. So once we've got this shape or something similar and about the same size, you're then going to want to put in the three-dimensional aspect. So you're going to go in a parallel line, okay, just along, kind of almost following the first line that you drew. And you're just going to take it all the way to the edge. And this is just a sketch, okay? And it's just to help us with our positioning, okay? So you should hopefully be able to see what I've done there. And then at this point, you can just round this little edge off like that, okay? So have a little look at that. And you can see that I've created one here that's a little bit easier to see. Okay, so you can have a good look at the shape, yeah, and that's what you're trying to create. So it's very similar to the one that I've done below, but it's not exactly the same, because obviously each time you do it will be slightly different. Okay, so just try for that shape. That's the kind of the outline that we're looking for. Okay, so as I say, we're going to rub this out. So let's start with the prongs on his head and his neck. So we're going to use this point here. Okay, so you can see where it is, and you're going to come out to kind of create a long spike, and you're going to want to go as close as you can to the top of your paper to give yourself enough room to add all of these lovely details in. And then you're going to come back to this line here, and that's why we've got that line. And as I said, we're going to rub all of these out so you won't see them, but at the moment we need them to help us to work out where our spikes are going to go. Okay, so that's our first one. We'll put the second one in a minute. This one we're working all the way, and we're going to work around this section. Okay, so again, you're going to repeat the same kind of thing and make it, you know, slightly shorter. And then you're going to come back in, and you want to make them nice and curved. And you can see I'm drawing in little bits. I'm not trying to draw that whole line as one stroke, because it's, like I say, a sketch that we're trying to do. So now you should have two kind of prongs that are coming out. Obviously this one's more like its horn, isn't it? And these ones are spikes. Okay, and then we're going to do the same again. Okay, and it's going to just come out and follow that line. Okay, and this one's going to be slightly shorter, and it's going to come in towards this line now. Okay, so it's curving around the corner. So this one is going to, when we're done, this one will make the corner shape of his face or her face. And then we're going to work along the bottom, because this is his chin down here, or her chin. So I'm going to change the angle that I'm working at, and I'm going to do a nice curve, and then back into that line. Okay, can you see? And then we're going to fit in another one, and you're going to make that one slightly longer than this one, and back in, and we might get one more in there like so. Hang on, I'm going to just rub that little bit out because we can edit. That's why we've got the rubber. I'm going to make it a little bit closer together, and I'm going to curve around, and you can see it's almost following this line here, and then back in. Okay, and if you feel you want to edit this one, you can, once you've got them all in position, you can totally work out what you want to do and how you want the spikes to feel. Okay, because obviously it's your dragon, and we're going to rub out this line in a minute. Okay, but we need it currently because we've got to get a mouth that's got to go all the way along here. Okay, so now that we've got the spikes in place, what we're going to do is we're going to work on his nose, his little hook nose. So we're going to use this line, okay, and we're going to come out and down to make almost like a little beak, but it's not quite like that. So you want it to go up a little, and then you're going to follow this line around like so, and then you're going to put in like a little hook. I'm going to rub that section out. Okay, and the way to do it is you're going to then extend this line all the way up, because this is going to be his mouth, and it wants to go almost to this line here. Okay, so this is going to come his long mouth with all his teeth in, and we're going to rub this line out and this line out, so don't worry. And then we're going to put in his little chin, because we want his bottom jaw to go in here. So we're going to just use a little curved line, and we're going to arch it back in to that spike there. Okay, and I'm going to now rub out the little line here because we want to edit and we don't want to see those lines, and that'll give you a better effect of what we're trying to create. Okay, so we've still got this line here. Okay, don't worry because we're going to rub it out, but these are to help you, to guide you. So if you need to just go over his mouth a little bit like I do there, then that's fine. And you're just going to sketch, okay, and just work out how you want it to look. And once you're happy, you can put it in a little bit heavier like I have. And I'm leaving this section because we're going to do the horns coming up his face on this section here. And that's why we've got these two lines, because we're going to work in between them in a minute. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to put in the horn at the back. Okay, so we're going to do from this point here, just like we started the horn from that point there, we're going to start the point from here. Okay, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to go up like that all the way, and as I say, try and get as close to the edge of the paper as you can, and you're going to come in like that. Okay, and as you can see, I didn't like that first one that I did, so I'm just going to rub it up. Okay, so just think about the fact that you might want to be editing with this one, okay, because it's probably the most complicated one we've done, but it is a really good tutorial to follow along with. Okay, so we're at this point now, and I think you can see that quite clearly, which is good. So this line here we need to get rid of now, so I'm going to take that one out. Okay, and we're just doing this in stages, and now we've got his mouth in, we can take this line out as well. Okay, so I'm just going to rub all of my sections out at the moment, and I'm going to come down here and rub this next bit out, and also down here all the way, so we're getting rid of all of these lines here. Okay, so just keep going, get rid of them, just take your time, okay, because we don't want any of the joins to be seen. Okay, so we're just taking all out those little sections in there. Okay, so once we've got rid of the lines, then you can see that it's starting to become more like a dragon head, and we've still got these two lines here that we're working on, because we're going to use those next, okay, to help us. So this section here is going to become where his eye will be, and we're going to draw a socket, so above, to show that it's like bony and hard, because that's what the dragon's scales and face bone shape would be like. And we're going to add another one on this side as well, so then we can work in between the two lines to create the horns going up his nose, which will give him a really fantastical feel. Okay, so hopefully you've got all your lines rubbed out, and we can come back to those as and when. Okay, so we're going to put in his eye now, okay, and it's going to go in this section here. So first little job, this point here is going to become where we're going to put the bone shape for his eye. And it's a little kind of hump almost. Okay, it's not an eye shape, that's just the bone. And we're going to repeat that on this side here. Okay, so just come using those lines, okay, to guide us. And I've just gone a little bit above there. Okay, so you can see that you've got two kind of eye sockets. And we can always make this one bigger if we want to, when we've decided what we want it to feel like. Okay, so we can edit those. It's just to get a position for the eye. So let's go in and do the eye. This is the fun bit. Okay, so dragons have kind of peculiar eyes. So we want a lovely elongated eye shape. And it's almost like a leaf or an almond. Okay, and it's kind of like a person's eye, but not quite. Okay, and you want it to be quite big so you can get a lot of detail in, because we're going to add the pupil now. Okay, so have a little look and think about how that will work. And we don't want it to be too close to the mouth, because we might want to add a little bit of detail in here. And we're using this guide line here to help us. And I might make that a little bit more bony in a minute. I haven't quite decided, and that's okay. So we're going to put in the dragon's pupil. So you're going to basically do a little curve across at one side, which is going to be the inner corner of his eye, and then the same thing on the outer corner. Okay, and you need to make those round, because obviously the dragon's pupil is round. The iris of his eye is slightly different though, okay, which we'll come to in a minute. So once you've got your eye in place, that's a great start. Yeah, and then we're going to put in the iris of his eye. Now our irises are round, it's the black area in the center of your eye, but the dragon's eye isn't quite like that. It's more, now you could do it two ways, I suppose. You can do it like a cat eye, like that, okay, where you've got a smaller leaf shape. You can do it like that, that's fine, you can do it that way. Or if I rub it out, you can see the other way that you could do it, which is almost like a spike in his eye. Okay, so you could do it either way, whichever you decide you would like to do. I'm going to do the cat eye version. Okay, but if you want to do the kind of fang version, you can. Totally up to you. It's half of why they're so interesting to do. Okay, so let's just sketch that back in. And I'm going to put in that oval shape in there for his iris. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, and this is for our colouring later to help us with our colouring, I'm going to add a little dot or a little circle and a smaller one below it. And we've talked about this before, just putting the little dots in will help us to give like a light in his eye, like a reflection. Okay, so we're not going to use those until we come to colour the eye. And as I said, you can colour this however you like. So there we go, we've got our eye in place. And I'm going to extend this little line here, and I might make it a little bit more raised. Okay, so you can do the same. Once you get your eye in place, you might want to change that. And because we're just working lightly and we've got our rubber, we can make that however we want, so we can edit. So if I've edited this one, I need to edit this one too, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to rub it out just gently, and I'm just going to make it a little bit higher, a little bit bonier. Okay, and you only know that once you get going with it. Okay, so editing on this is key, really. So once you've got this section in place, we're going to now work on the horns going up between his eyes here. So this is becoming like his forehead and down his nose. And we're going to add them in so that they overlap. Okay, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So we're going to use this line that's taken from his nose, and we're going to put in the first spike, and we're kind of trying to get the spikes to go up this section, and you can make them small at the bottom and bigger as you go up if that's what you want to do. Okay, and that's what I'm going to have a go at doing. So I'm going to use this line, and this is going to create my first little spike. Okay, so it's going up to a point and it's curving around, and this curve is really important because we're going to use that for our next spike to join onto. Now this line here, you can just rub out, okay, and just take your time because you're just sketching, okay, like so. And then you're going to do the next spike. So it's going to come from halfway around that curve, and it's going to go like so, and we're going to add another curve. Can you see what I've done there? And it's coming above this line here because we want it to be above his nose line. And again, and I'm keeping that curve at the back end, okay, so that our spikes are kind of folding into one another. And we're going to use this line in a minute, but not quite yet. So keep going, and we're going to do another one. And we're going to keep that curve, so it's almost like a wave, isn't it? Okay, and we're going to go over this in pen at the end, so you'll be able to see it really effectively working. And I'm going to go again with another spike, keeping that curve, and you can see where the curves and the lines are joining. It's not quite at the end, it's just a little bit up from each one. Okay, and one more, and it doesn't matter if it goes over that line of his forehead, that's okay. You could take them higher if you wanted to, but we're going to rub that out anyway, so don't worry. And I'm going to do one more here, and it is going to go above his head there. Okay, and I'm again just using that curve, okay, to help me. Do I think I could fit one more in? I do actually, so I'm going to do one more, and it's going to come in front of that horn, which is fine, okay, because we can use that. Okay, and you can just press, once you're happy with it, you can just press a bit harder. Okay, so at this point what we need to do is we need to take our rubber and we need to rub out all of the little lines that are inside those prongs, if there are any. So actually it was just on my last two, I think, really, wasn't it? Or maybe that one. Okay, so if you've rubbed out, you should just be able to still see where you drew and just put those back in. Okay, and with this piece of art, it's really important that you are able to edit, okay, because that's what we want to be able to do. We don't want it to be, you know, perfect first time. I don't think you'd be able to do it straight away first time, to be honest. Okay, so then we're going to fill in between here, 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 and I'm going to change that one and make it go like that. So I'm going to take out that top line. Okay, and you can see how I'm just editing as I go and making his eye socket fall into place there. Okay, so you can see that we've got a nice row of spikes going up his face. We've got his eye in place now, and this line was really just to help us to stay between while we were doing the horns across here, because it helps just as a little guideline. Okay, you don't need to come as far down as that line, but it just helps you to work between the two. Okay, so once you've got that section done, we're going to add in a little nostril and we're going to take out this line because we're not going to need it anymore. Okay, so I'm going to take this section out, and I'm just using my rubber ever so carefully. If you've got one on the end of your pencil, that might help as well because they're a little narrower. Okay, and I'm just taking out those lines. Okay, so you can see now how he's starting to come together, and I'm just cleaning my rubbings away, and I'm going to add a little nostril in here, and we're not going to colour that yet. Okay, and so your nostril should be kind of towards the edge of his nose. You can make it a little closer, but you don't need to really. You can just leave it where it is on, like I've got it on mine. Okay, so now what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over these spikes because I'm happy with how everything's looking. Okay, so you can do the same. You can just go over and you're just going to press a little heavier. And I'm going to go right the way round, all the way, just kind of getting everything how I would like it to be. And I think that's pretty good at the moment. Okay, so next thing we're going to do, we're going to add in the corner of his mouth here, and we're going to add in the teeth. So we're going to put in a little arrow. It's like a little roundy arrow at the end of his mouth. Okay, and that's kind of where his skin's going to kind of curl at the edge. And then we're going to put in his teeth. And they're going to go all the way along that whole big section of his mouth. And I'm just curving them around a bit because obviously they're not totally triangular. So you just try your best with that all the way along to about there. Okay, so you don't want it to go all the way across, but you need it to go quite far up. Okay, so it's looking good at the moment. So once we've got to that stage, then we're going to put in a little bit of extra detail. So we're going to add a little section here, so it'll make him more three-dimensional. And we're going to add in a little section into this bit here, so we're going to extend that line down. Okay, so we're going to add a little, just a little kind of section in here, like so, and it's just a little hollow, and then we're going to add an extension of this line here, so it comes down, and maybe a little line down his nose, and so on. Okay, so he looks pretty realistic at the moment, and that's what we're kind of after with this tutorial. We want to make him look as real as we can. Okay, so we can extend this down so it's a bit like that, and then what we'll use that to help us to shade as and when we get to that point. And to just make his eye a little bit more realistic, I'm going to give it a little eyelid and some little ridges just going above his eye towards this actual brow line here, and then we're going to do the same kind of underneath his eye to make him look a little bit more kind of realistic. And I'm not going the whole way along, I'm just doing lines of a little bit of different length each time. Okay, so that kind of gives that nice dinosaur dragon eye effect where the skin is kind of looking like scales. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put in the neck coming around. Okay, and then we can come back and we can sort out any bits we're not happy with or any edits we want to do. So I'm going to go between these two horns here. Okay, and as we know, that's kind of following through. Okay, so we're going to go between those two, and I'm going to go between those two, and then I'm going to do a really nice long curve, and I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of my paper. Okay, and then I'm going to come in, and it's going to be, you might still be able to see that little line there, but it's roughly in line with this, and you're going to come between the two, and you want to make his neck kind of wider towards the bottom, so it's nice and wide here. Okay, so you can see. And once you've got that section in place, then we're going to add in the detail down the neck, and we'll add some spikes going across here as well, and that will kind of get him to a point where we think he's almost finished. So if we just use our pencil, we're going to do some little curves going across his neck, and they're not straight, but they're not kind of lumpy either. They're almost like a kind of a small smile, and you're just going to repeat them, but can you see how each one's getting slightly bigger as I go along? Okay, and this is going to create his underside as we go. Brilliant. Okay, so once I've got those in place, I might fit another one just in there. Okay, and it can be like a little smile like so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to join these together so that we can make like a scale, and then we're going to put some on the front as well, because that's the whole point of this tutorial. It's quite detailed. So I'm going to go in a round shape at the end. So I'm going to make a rounded shape here, and then again a rounded kind of edge to that, and the next one, and you're just going to repeat that all the way to the bottom of the sections of the neck. Now this bit, obviously you can't see that section, but you still want to put in that last rounded edge, okay, to finish it off. So once you've got to that stage, then we're going to put in an extra layer of detail down this section, and it'll act like a small scale and make him look a little bit more kind of realistic, a bit more 3D, and lots of detail is good. So we're going to add in a curved section here, okay, and then another curve here, and again we're going to curve, and if it goes through the spike, that's okay, just put it behind, okay, because you want the spike to be in front. And then again a little curve, another little curve, all the way down kind of to the bottom of his chest there, and that's your section complete. What we're going to do after that is we're going to add a little bit of detail to this edge, so lots of little curves. So these are going to become like little scales. So hopefully you can see you're going to do little semicircles all the way around the edge of these bigger plates that he's got down his neck or her neck, and so on. Just keep going with them, okay, all the way down. Keep going right to the bottom. So you can see that you're adding an extra level of detail to that section there. If you want to, you can go down on these as well. So let's just make them go down like this, kind of next to your other line. Okay, just little boxes, okay, to make his neck just a little thicker. Okay, so again it gives that lovely kind of almost like a 3D effect there, so it's kind of like the front of his neck, isn't it? Okay, so once we've done the front of the neck, we want to work on the back section of the neck, because obviously we want those spikes to clearly be seen that you saw in the original drawing. So we're going to start at the top, and we're going to put a spike in here, and it's going to be quite a small one. It doesn't want to be interfering with these two lovely big horns that we're going to create. So a first spike in there at the top, and then we're going to carry on, and we're going to go for maybe another one in here, and again not as big as these two, okay, because we don't want them to interfere with the background. We want them to kind of fit in to what we're working with. And so I'm just going to add as I go, and I'm curving them slightly. Okay, and this is where the imagination comes in, because you can do these however you like, really. Okay, so just keep going all the way down his neck, and they can get wider as they get towards the bottom. They could curve more, you could have more space in between than I've got. Okay, this bit's totally kind of up to you how you see your dragon being completed. Okay, and so you've reached the bottom of his neck at that point, okay, which is super. So it looks really effective now. Then what we're going to do is we're going to, oops, sorry, that was my paper moving slightly. What we're going to do next is we're going to add the little triangular pieces onto this neck section here to give it a bit of texture, to kind of create the illusion of scales. That's what we're trying to create. So I'm just going to edit that last little spike because it wasn't quite how I wanted it. So then with the neck, we're going to do almost little arrows, little V's. And we're going to just do them coming down his neck. Okay, like so, just following the line. Okay, and then another row all the way down this section of his neck, and they're going to create, like I say, like a texture, like his skin is scaled, because obviously we're trying to create a dragon today. And you might be able to fit maybe just 1 or 2 in that little section there. You won't get as many because obviously it's coming in wider. Now you could put one in here, but I probably won't. But we want to create that lovely textured neck. So at this point, I'm just going to make sure all my lines are how I want them. So I'm just going to go over the horns around his face. And the reason we're doing this is so we can see where we're going to put our pen, which is what we're going to do next. Okay, and then we'll colour, and I'll show you how to shade the eye and to shade his skin and things like that. Now, I think that my teeth are coming a little bit too far on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take those 2 out. Okay, and this is the beauty of being able to edit. And I'm going to put the mouth back in. So I think if its teeth stop round about his eye level, that would probably be the best way to think about your dragon's eye and teeth and the proportions. Okay, so hopefully you can see what we've created. I'm going to go over these little spikes, and then what you're going to need next is you're going to need your black biro or fine liner. You could use a felt tip, but I think the biro kind of, or the fine liner, work a little bit better with this, because you can see that we've added a lot of detail, and those lines, especially around the neck, are quite small, so we want to be able to get the detail in, which we can't do with a Sharpie, and we can't really do it as well with a felt tip, although it is better. Okay, so hopefully you can see that we've created this fantastic head shape, and you can add in some little extra kind of bumpy nodules and things like that as we go along, and you can kind of make him look how you want him to look, or her. So at this point, what I'm going to do is, because you can see the finished piece, I'm going to stop the video, and I'm going to use my biro, and I'm just going to go over little sections. Okay, so when I'm going over, I'm going to press quite hard, and I'm just going to do a little section at a time. Okay, and just be careful with the lines that you're actually going over. So you only want the ones that we've left behind to show. You don't want all those little sketch lines in. Okay, so you can see that once you get going, you should be able to see a really nice image developing. And it's just pressing a little bit harder. So I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to do the drawing over with the black pen. You can see that because I'll speed it up, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to do the next stage after that. Okay. So you can see that I've outlined it all in black, and I've added in all the extra details. I haven't missed any bits out. The next thing you're going to need is you're just going to need to rub out all of your pencil lines so that you are just left with the lovely black outline, because you don't need any of those pencil marks left in. Okay, so just give it a little rub out. Now just be careful, make sure that you leave the biro, okay, to dry, or the fine liner to dry before you do this section, because you don't want to smudge all of your hard work. Okay, so I'm just going to take out all of those pencil lines, and I left it for about 5 minutes, probably just to dry, just to set a little bit, and for the ink to go into the page. Now you'll have noticed that I haven't got rid of those little circles in his eyes, and I haven't gone over them in black either, because obviously we're going to use those just to help us shade. So what we do want to colour in black though is this eye section here, and then I'm going to show you how I want you to shade your dragon to create that lovely either fiery or watery effect that we're after. So with this iris, it's the same as ours, so we're going to use the same kind of technique where we're going to put in a little section, and I'm just actually going in straight with black, okay, and another little section just below. So they're not circular, they're kind of following that oval shape that we've got for the iris. So once you've got that in, then just like with the nostril, I'm just going to use my black, and I'm just going to colour it in really carefully, because we don't want any white apart from the areas that we want to leave white, to give that little glint, that evil glint that the dragon's got. Okay, so we're just going to colour in that whole section, and just take your time doing it. You're not in any rush. Okay, so you want to take a little time to just get it really nice and sharp. That's what we're after. Okay, and you can see that he's starting to come to life. Okay, so colouring wise, we're going to go on to that. And again, like I said at the start of the video, we're going to use our pencil crayons. Now I'm going to attempt to do a fiery dragon. So I've got fiery colours, or hot colours. So I've got yellow, red and orange, and I'm going to use these three to be able to blend and to give like a fiery feel to this dragon. If you wanted to though, let me just pop those down, you know, you could do a sea kind of dragon as well. I'll just move those out of the way so you can see him. You know, if you want to do a sea dragon, you could use blues and greens, light blue, dark blue, light green and dark green. You can do those colours. I know that some people have used purple when they've done these before with me, and it worked out really well. So purpley, cool colours. If you want your dragon to be, you know, blacks and greys, you can do that. If you want it to be, you know, pinks and purples, you can do that. This is totally up to you. Okay, so I'm using the hot colours, and I'll show you how to shade using them, and then you can basically apply that to any of the colours that you want to choose, because obviously it's your dragon, your imagination, that's what we want to see. So the first part, although it sounds strange to do so, is we're going to start with his eye. Now you're going to choose, so say you've chosen blues, you would choose the lightest shade of the blues. Out of my shades here that I've got, or my colours, I've got yellow is obviously the lightest. Now you're going to use your lightest colour, whatever that would be. So, you know, you can do whatever colour you like really, but the yellow kind of glowing eye looks really good no matter what colour your dragon is. So you might decide that you want to do the same eye as me, but then a different kind of skin, scaly skin. So you can do that too. So I'm going to start with my yellow, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to work around this iris here, and I'm not going to be too neat, okay, but I'm just going to shade all the way around the outside. And I'm just being careful next to the pen, because obviously we don't want to smudge. And again, I'm being a little careful around those areas that we were going to kind of leave a little bit white. And there we go. Okay, so we've coloured around the iris of his eye with the lightest colour. Now, you might just want to copy mine, and that's fine. Okay, it'll work. You're going to take your next shade, which for me would be orange. And I'm going to use this outer edge of the pupil. And I'm going to put the orange right at the edge. And I'm not trying to get a straight line, and trying to get like almost like a blended effect, like we did in club. Okay, so again, I'm going to take the orange on the outside edge, and we're just going to try and blend the orange and the yellow together. Okay, so can you see now how the eye is starting to kind of glow like a real dragon's eye would? Okay, so we want it like that. Now with your red, you're going to fill in this section here. Okay, so what I might do is I might put in just under this section, just to give it a little bit more detail, okay, you can put in a little tear duct there. So that's what I'm going to do. I forgot to put that in before. So just do a little black triangle just to make it even more realistic. And I might just add a little bit of just crinkles, you know, underneath his eye like so, just to give him a very realistic kind of feel. And I'm going to extend this out and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, so just using my pen. Right, so using the red, you're going to go into this section here. Okay, and again, you're trying to kind of blend the orange into the red because we can see where his pupil ends because of the black pen. Okay, and we don't want it to be like a striped eye though, so we want to bring that red a little into the orange. Okay, and then we're going to bring the orange a little bit in to the yellow. So just work it ever so gently. Okay, because this is the bit that's going to make him kind of come to life almost, because that's where the lifelike aspect of this drawing comes into play. Yeah, so eye is done. And it looks like it's glowing. It looks like there's kind of a light emanating from it because we've got those areas of light in there, and it works out really well. So then what we're going to do, we're going to just think about just editing a little bit with this line here that I've just added, because we want to kind of extend this up, okay, just a little bit. Okay, maybe just put a little ridge on the edge. Okay, and I'm just going to add just a little of extra detail just on the bridge line, just using my pen. Okay, so it's not totally one straight line. Okay, just to give it a bit more of a craggy kind of appearance, because that's what we want to do. Okay, so to create the fiery effect that you saw at the start of the video, it's quite a nice technique to be able to master, and using the pencil crayons for this is great. I mean, you can just do the drawing and then you can colour it with felt tips if you wanted to. You don't have to do it exactly the same as mine, but the shading technique on this does work really well, and it produces a fantastic effect at the end. So it's basically a similar technique for all of the areas. You're basically going to kind of use the darkest shade that you've got. So I've got orange, yellow and red, and you want at least 3, or light blue, dark blue, light blue and green. You can use the darkest colour on the outside edges. And you're going to decide which is going to be your outside edge. So for me, it's going to be down this side, here, 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 okay? And it's going to be towards the edge of the nose and then along this area. So it's almost like where you've put the pen lines, you want to have that as your darkest shade, and then you can blend in between. Okay, so I'm going to show you just the section maybe here on his nose and maybe just around his eye, just so you get an idea. And then what I'll do is I'll speed up the video and you can see what I'm kind of after. So I am going to just shade, okay, each point, and I'm coming down that side. Can you see? Okay, and I'm using that little curve of the pen to help me. Now I'm not being particularly neat. I'm not going in straight lines because we want the effect to be that everything's going to blend together. Okay, so you can see that I'm just using those curves that we've done to help me, and I'm just using that outside edge all the way down. Okay, again the curve, and it's just coming in a little bit, and I'm just giving a little scribble because you're going to blend it all together in a minute. And again down this last one, using the curve, and I'm going to come in a little bit further than I've actually curved around on that one, and that's okay. And again up that outside, okay, and again just kind of in towards his eye. Okay, so everything's curving inwards. And then obviously we're going to do the same on this one, but I'm just going to do these sections and the eye section, I think, to show you. Maybe a little bit of the nose, and then you can watch me. Okay, so I think you're going to get the idea. The next colour we're going to use is orange, and we're going to go in here and then yellow. So we're working the other way. So orange in next, and you're just going to repeat the same kind of thing, but you want the two colours to blend together. So I shouldn't see any join, and I shouldn't see any straight line, but I'm repeating the pattern. Okay, so I'm going to go down and I'm using those curves again, just like I did with the red before, and I'm going to do the same with the orange, just over the top and just coming a little bit in more to the center of the point or the center of the spike, and again just out towards the edge. And if there's a little bit of red, you can just color over. And the reason we're doing this is because the more shades you add, almost the more realistic your finished piece will look. And I'm blending the two colours together, so I'm not seeing like a great big line of red. You know, I haven't drawn a big line of red. I'm just blending the two colours together, and you're getting good at that now, because I've seen your sloths and your aquariums and things like that, and we're using pencil crayons because it's a really good way of producing something that's almost like a painting, but not quite, using something that you've got in the house. Okay, so can you see how we're creating this fiery effect now? He's starting to take shape, your last shade or your last colour. Okay, so I'm going to fill in the remainder of the spike here. Okay, and so I'm now starting to join all the colours together using the lightest shades. So you can see I'm coming along the bottom of the curve and joining into the next one. And again, and I'm joining into the next one. And again, and our last one. And I'm just taking it a little bit up onto that, what will be the next spike here. And then we're going to do red along this edge, okay, which I'll show you in a minute. But I think we might come from down here with the red maybe, or maybe from the outside. We'll just see how we go. Okay, so you can see the effect that it creates. It makes them look almost like they're 3D because you're using the red to kind of help you outline the shape and kind of create that shadow, but you're also using the orange and the yellow to kind of blend it all in, so it's going to look really fiery at the end. Again, the same kind of thing would happen with his nose, okay? But what you don't want to end up with, which you'll see in my finished drawing, you'll be able to see how I've speeded up. You don't want, obviously, just all of the lines to be red, because that would be weird. Okay, but you know, it's just the extremities. So like his nose is good. Okay, and I'm just going to blend it in, and then a little bit of yellow. So you're kind of working in those three kind of patterns, but obviously he's not going to end up stripy. You don't want a stripy dragon particularly. Okay, so you can start to see how I'm building that up. As I go along, you'll be able to see, although I'll be drawing a little bit quicker, you'll be able to see the techniques that I'm using. So let's look at the eye. Okay, because then you can do this section yourselves, I'm sure, once you get the hang of it. So again, we're going to use kind of red along those black lines. Okay, because obviously we want those to be slightly darker, so I'm just going over them in red. And I'm not worrying too much about being accurate. And again, I'm going over that lovely line that we created outside and this section here. And I'm not worrying about being particularly neat. And again, I'm just going to do these little lines as well. And I'm just going over them, just pressing quite hard so you can see the red. Okay, and you can put in a little line around the eye on that side too, okay, just for now. So once we've got, just these little bits, sorry, forgot those. Okay, so once we've got that in place, the next shade you're going to use is obviously your orange. So you're going to go in between. Okay, now we don't want the whole dragon to be orange, obviously, so we're just going to put in just a little bit of orange. We don't need to cover the whole thing, and that's the kind of the trick with this tutorial. You're going to shade a little bit and then stop. Put in a little bit of orange and then stop. Okay, and the reason we're using the crayons, like I said, is because you can build the colour up. Okay, so you can see that I'm just working just over the lines that I already created with the red. I think you can guess what's coming. The last section would be to fill in those little areas of white. You won't have very much left. Okay, and I tend to choose to work on like a little section like the eye, okay, first, so I can see what I'm doing. And that's what I'd advise you to do, is to have a go at the eye area first, because you can start to see what we're creating here. And we can use these, again, just a yellow, and it just needs to be just around the orange. Doesn't need to worry about blending it too much, but we're using that extra colour just to create these kind of fiery lines down the dragon's face. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and then I'm going to colour it, and you'll see how the shading and the blending works together, and you'll have a better idea of where to put the red, the orange and the yellow to kind of create that effect. Now, if you're using the other colours, so the greens and the blues, you can just repeat what I did, just with different shades. So if you were doing like a purpley dragon, You know, you could use a dark blue, a purple and a pink, or a purple, a lilac and a pink, depends what colours you've got to hand. Okay, if you're doing a black and a grey dragon and a red dragon, you're going to just do the same kind of shading, okay? So using your darkest colour, going through and then into your lighter colour, okay? So I've chosen to do the hot colours, but you can choose whichever ones you want. So I'll stop it now, I'll speed it up, and then you can follow along with the colouring, and hopefully we'll have a fantastic finished piece. So, as you can see, I have finished my dragon. Doesn't he look fantastic? I have to say that I am really thrilled with how this has turned out, and I hope that you're all going to have a really good go at these and create your own magnificent, magical dragons, because it's a lovely project. It's really a good one to let your imagination run wild, because you can make it any colour you like. You can add your spikes however you like. You can add them short, you can add them long. It's really up to you, but I think it's a lovely one to have a really good go at and to spend a bit of time having a little try at it, because it does come out beautifully in the end. Now, what you'll see is that obviously I have added a black background, and I didn't tell you that you needed a Sharpie because, to be honest, I didn't think that we would need one. But when I got to the end, I felt that the piece needed a little bit more kind of drama, and so I thought about a dragon being either against a night sky or in its cave sitting on its big hoard of treasure, and I thought a black background might look really cool, and it might make the colours that I've chosen really stand out. So if you want to add a black background like I've done, all I did was just colour in the background, and you can see the process. I just did it with a Sharpie or a felt tip pen, and it really kind of brings it to life. Now, you could add a magical world in the background if you wanted to, okay, like we talked about at the start of the video. So it's really up to you, and I would love to see any of your finished pieces because I'm really enjoying sharing your work on Facebook and Twitter, because I used to do that with all my clubs that I used to visit, and it's a really nice process, and it cheers me up while we're in lockdown and staying away from school and not seeing each other. So I hope that you've had fun following along with the tutorial today, and that you have enjoyed making this fantastic dragon. I will hopefully see you next week with another art lesson, and I know that you're enjoying following along, so I will see you then. Well done. I hope you had a great time doing this.